Commission meeting, which is primarily on Zoom. So we will do a roll call for attendance. So just say aye when I call your name. Bailey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Emilio?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jack? Aye. Okay, we're all here. So first hearing, which one is? How is
Right
this?
there.
This is number one?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So so there's those two hearings, the request for determination and the land disturbance permit. So,
That's, are there two things to read in for that?
no, they were all advertised together.
Town of Walpole request for determination of applicability, land disturbance permit, Conservation Commission public hearing. In accordance with Walpole Wetlands Protection Act, the Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, notice hereby given the intent of Neponset Solar LLC to install a ground-mounted solar installation outside of conservation jurisdiction at 455 South Street in Walpole, Mass. Plans for the request for determination of applicability and land disturbance permit are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held at Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, January 12th, 2022, beginning at 7 p.m. All interested persons requested to be present. Okay. Do we have anything to read in here from anybody?
No.
Okay, nothing to read in. So representing the applicant?
So I would suggest doing the request for determination first and then the land the land disturbance permit.
Okay, so did we have somebody on here?
Yep. So my name is Matt Kennedy with Biodiversity Research Institute, and we're representing Neponset Solar LLC, an affiliate of Ironwood Renewables LLC, for both the land disturbance permit and the request for determination of applicability. So I can get started on the RDA, if that is what you would prefer. Do I have the ability to share my screen?
Hold on. Yes, you should.
All right. All right, can everybody see my screen here?
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess just to introduce, there's some members of the project team on the call tonight. Dale Knapp with BRI, Rebecca Stanley with BRI, I believe Michael Whitney with Mackey and Mackey is also on the call, and Greg Dixon with Krebs and Lansing Engineers, and then some representatives of Ironwood, Hamilton Carrier, and Adrian Ortlieb are also on the call. So they should be able to answer any questions as well, but I'll dive right into it here. Here's the site. We got 455 South Street in Walpole. We're proposing a large-scale ground-mounted solar installation and battery storage facility. The goal of the project is to provide reliable, renewable power to the local electrical grid that will benefit Massachusetts customers. So here's the entire site plan. In specific to this RDA, we performed a wetland delineation, and on the site plan you can see where we flag these wetlands. They're all pretty small wetlands that we have given. None of them are bordering vegetated wetlands based on the definition in the Wetlands Protection Act and our communication with the conservation agent. We did a site walk back in the fall and looked at these. The project has respected a 100-foot buffer surrounding these wetlands. Regardless of it not being BBWs, we've still given them that 100-foot buffer. So that's what we put into our RDA, is that we do not believe it's an applicable. Wetlands Protection Act is not going to need to do any compensation or anything, because we're not impacting any of these, and they're not regulated wetlands under the state's wetlands laws.
So far.
I'll open it up to questions on the RDA, I guess, for now, and then we can kind of go into the land disturbance application if you have more questions on that.
We'll proceed on the RDA at this point, then we'll get back to the land disturbance permit. So Landis?
Yes, hi, Matt. I just had a couple of questions. One, when I was out on the site and we walked it, there was an area of wetlands to the far end of the site, all the way back, not that.
This one.
So if you go all the way to where the hill is, yeah, and the little basin, somewhere, I remember walking through the site and standing on a ridge and then heading down, and there was a wetlands there. Was that determined to be way off-site, or?
It was, yeah, it was off the property.
And over 100 feet, so that it wasn't even shown on the plan?
Correct.
Okay.
I think we did locate the stream off-site. Matt, I don't know if you have that distance off the top of your head. We were able to use aerial photos to snap a few lines, and I believe those were included in some of the application materials. But that wet area off-site, the back of the parcel was off property and is 100 feet from the limit of disturbance.
So over 100 feet, because you don't have the buffer zone or anything, so you just didn't
Yeah.
show that at all because it was so far from the project that.
Well, we estimated we didn't trespass on the adjacent property to collect any GPS data.
Okay. And then just wanted to just explain the Neponset River is across on South Street and also to the east of the property. I think I'm trying to find your, but it's over 200 feet from your site.
That's correct. Yep. Yeah.
Anything else?
We're not within the riverfront area for this project.
Just showing. It's there, and then it loops up around behind the building, not the Tufts, but the other building, I guess, next to Tufts. It loops up back. Oh, there you go. That's good. Okay. All right. So I just want everyone to see how far the river is away from the site. Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Any questions? Dean?
No questions for the RDA.
Bailey?
No questions.
Doug?
Yeah, just a maintenance question. In the winter, if you need to clear snow off the solar panels, where would you store it? Where would you put the snow?
So we don't clean the snow off the panels. It subsides off the panels as sort of temperatures change. The angle of the repose of the panel allows it to simply slide off after it snows. And so typically the drip edge is about 36 inches above the ground. And so as that snow slumps off, it will pile up on the ground, it will subside. And so removal of snow within the footprint of the panel area is not required.
So Doug, We were just
Yes.
gonna do the request for determination and get that out of the way under the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw, and then go into the land disturbance where we can have them address more questions like that, just because there are two different votes.
Okay.
All right.
I have no other questions.
Okay, Betsy?
Nope, no comments.
Al?
I don't have a problem as far as determination is concerned.
Okay,
Jack,
yes.
I don't have any questions either.
Omidio, sorry. You're hiding in my list here. Sorry.
That's okay.
Omidio, any questions?
Yeah, I have several questions. No,
Okay, thank you. Okay. So someone want to move to close the hearing?
So moved.
For the
All right, I'll
determination.
This is
I'll
for
second it
This is
then.
for the determination. Who did that?
Al,
Al did? Okay, who second?
I did,
Betsy
Betsy.
second? Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor? And we'll do it as a roll call, so, Dean,
Aye.
Bailey,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Medio,
I,
Betsy,
Aye.
Al,
aye.
Jack, aye. Okay. So that's, close the hearing, and, we have a negative what?
A
one?
negative one, not within the buffer zone or jurisdictional areas.
Does someone want to move, that for a -1?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that was Al and Betsy. And all in favor? Dean,
Aye.
Bailey,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Medio,
I,
Betsy,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay, so that takes care of the determination. Now for the land disturbance permit. Is there anything to read in for that?
No, not at this point. The town engineer, Carl, was reviewing the plans and he was reviewing them rather late. So I did talk to him, but I don't think he got me a letter. If he did, it was an email and I got it late.
So do we need to hold that for his comments, or?
Well, I would have the applicant describe the project and the different components of it. I know that Carl has reviewed the stormwater for the planning board as well. I have a couple of recommendations for additional information
Okay,
as well, so.
okay, so proceed. Who's,
Sure.
yeah, go ahead.
Yep. For the record, again, Matt Kennedy, Biodiversity Research Institute, representing Ponset Solar LLC, affiliate of Ironwood Renewables LLC, for this project, a large-scale ground-mount solar facility at 455 South Street in Walpole, map 41, lot 71. The total limit of disturbance for this project is 15.3 acres. We're proposing a nameplate capacity of 3 megawatts AC. And the project is located entirely within the industrial zone of Walpole. Just to give you some background on the project site, it was a gravel pit that was previously utilized for mineral extraction, aggregate storage, and in the past was completely cleared of trees. Currently, it's dominated by a regenerating forest with some small wetland pockets that we just discussed. We performed a formal wetland and water body delineation, and the surrounding area, the project footprint is largely forested with existing commercial and industrial developments. Project is not within a 100-year floodplain. There are no mapped habitats. mapped by the Massachusetts Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program within 500 feet of the project. And as discussed previously, there's no areas of the project that would be classified as bordering vegetated wetlands or inland subject to flooding or riverfront area. Project proposes to clear approximately 9.7 acres of trees. And, we've, as a part of this application, put together a drainage report that includes a stormwater pollution prevention plan, and also an operation and maintenance plan for the project that addresses all erosion and sedimentation controls that will be in place during both construction and operation. There's 0.5 acres of total impervious pervious area that's proposed. That's primarily the access roads, the racking posts associated with the solar racking, and the fence posts, and some equipment pads, I should say, as well. So what we're proposing here will be that the site will be cleared, graded. Well, I guess we'll install those erosion sedimentation control measures first, and then the site will be cleared, graded, materials will be delivered on site. I should mention that the access road that we're proposing utilizes the existing access that the gravel pit had previously utilized, so that'll stay the same. And then throughout the construction process, there'll be some oversight to make sure that those erosion sedimentation control measures are in place and in good order. The project will bring in some organic materials so that the site can be seeded and establish a meadow buffer underneath the solar arrays that will help that'll establish a stormwater buffer so that in the event of a rain event, that vegetated meadow will be able to absorb any stormwater flows, and there won't be any increase to flows on site or off site due to the project. So so that meadow will be established prior to operation and removal of those erosion and sedimentation control measures that were installed prior to construction.
Matt, can you share the plan again so we can look at it while you're talking?
Absolutely. What else here? It's going to be a pretty passive project. It's not going to be visited when in operation more than a few times a year for just maintenance. The site will be mowed no more than a few times a year just to keep that buffer, that vegetation meadow buffer intact. It'll be allowed to grow. So it's just like grasses, native species of grasses and wildflowers that we usually use a wildlife conservation seed mix to establish that meadow buffer. And maintenance crews will come in a couple times a year just to make sure that it's not growing past the edge of the panels and creating any shading issues. But other than that, we propose to install a fence around the entire project. The NEC National Electric Code requires that it be at least 7 feet high. We've got an access gate here that we propose to have a Knox box that will allow for emergency personnel to access the property in the event of emergency. They'll have the ability to open these gates and get in with their vehicles and equipment. There'll also be some small signs that will be at the gates that will have a 24-hour emergency contact information. There'll also be some motion detecting lights at the main gate, so that if a car pulls up, they can find that emergency access number pretty quickly without the need to, pull out a flashlight or anything like that. So, that's pretty much the rundown. Have some more maps here that we can share and look at, some more specifics of the watersheds and everything, but I'll kind of open it up to questions that the commission has.
Okay, Landis?
Well, can you talk about the clearing, the phasing of the clearing, how you're gonna handle that? During construction, stormwater management, you have a siltation basin, you have a few sediment basins, you have a swale. Can you describe all that stuff? That's really the meat of the stormwater management and erosion control bylaw, is how you're gonna handle stormwater during construction and stormwater post-construction.
Yeah, sure. I can turn that over, that kind of stuff over to Greg Dixon, who's the civil engineer who's provided the drainage report.
Hi guys. Yeah, so I think the bulk of how we are looking to handle stormwater post-construction, Matt kind of discussed, is creating the field, creating a meadow of the existing field, and really letting that vegetation kind of take over. And in our operation and maintenance, we actually outlined that it'll only probably be mowed twice in a growing season. So those grasses will get probably 2 to 3 feet high. And then they won't be kind of mowed like you would mow your lawn. It would more be kind of like brush hogged. And so the intent is to kind of have that area be well vegetated sort of during operation. The biggest thing that is actually helping us on this project is the removal of materials. The existing site, as you can kind of see from some of the existing grades on that, are kind of really compacted together and a little bit lighter than the solid grades on site, are very steep. So majority of the grades on site right now are kind of at repose of the soil. That meaning they're kind of in the place right before they would want to give out anyways. So it's about 3-on-1s, 2-on-1s, 4-on-1s, that sort of thing. And we'll be taking a lot of that out and kind of really relaxing the slopes on the whole site. So it'll go from a large majority of the site being over 15%. I think we included some maps to kind of showing existing and proposed, kind of the red and the yellows of the 15 and the high percentages slopes, and then what it will look like afterwards, which is a lot more relaxed slopes down into the below 8 and 5%. And so that is kind of where we're getting the bulk of just having water stay on site a little bit longer, just because it's moving more slower off site. It's staying on site longer, having more time to infiltrate. The soils on site are very good, all hydraulic group A pretty much. So we are expecting very high infiltration rates. As part of my drainage report, I did not assume a very high infiltration rate. So we are kind of being very conservative on that. Right now we're saying, hey, we haven't done testing yet of in the infiltration basin. So we're using the lowest value for those infiltration rates, which is about 1.4, which just knowing the soils, I expect that infiltration rate to be nearly 10 times that amount. So we are expecting a lot of water to stay on site longer and be allowed to infiltrate even further. And so that's how we're gonna sort of manage stormwater in the long run. During construction, it'll be a lot of the same best management practices you'll see sort of on any normal construction site. The site will be cleared of vegetation that's on there right now. We are requiring that only happen in 5-acre blocks. Sort of as the contractor moves, they will disturb 5 acres and then have to temporarily seed and stabilize those areas and then move on to the next 5, or decide on a number even lower than 5 if it makes sense for them. Other sort of BMPs that you would normally see out there, perimeter controls such as silt fence and wattles will be used, as well as some water bars in areas where there might be some concentrated flow, really trying to break up flow concentration to only areas that we are trying to concentrate flow. As mentioned, we do have the one swale that kind of runs along the edge of the road. That is the only swale that we have proposed, and that's mostly just because that's the only impervious on site. That being said, it's not pavement. It is going to be just a gravel road. We are proposing paving just the entrance of the road. Once we get past the right of way, the rest will just be gravel. So it doesn't really meet the definition of impervious, but we modeled it and are providing treatment for it as if it was impervious. Other stuff in here, I mean, I'm sure we will be planning on using any of the materials from clearing to bolster our erosion prevention and sediment control. Those would be sort of woody debris that we'd be able to ground up and use as erosion control mix to have in areas of temporary stabilization, and then also maybe even mix that in to help facilitate more organics in the topsoil to kind of get that grass growing. But that is kind of the basis and the plan. There's a lot of information both in the plan set and in the drainage plan that kind of outlines a lot of what I'm talking about, and the SWIP is also provided right now as well, which is also in the drainage plan. So that would also be helpful if you have reviewed that. Again, I know I just talked for a while, so any other questions, or did I answer the current question?
Yeah, I just wanted anyone in the audience as well as the commissioners to understand what your plan is for construction, stormwater management. You have a few sediment basins that they're just temporary basins to be used during construction to collect stormwater. Is that the idea? And then post-construction, they'll stay or they won't? Your plan was a little confused because your plan was post-construction and erosion control, which we usually have, sort of erosion control and then post-construction, and everything was combined on one plan. So those temporary sediment basins, are they going to be there post-construction, or are they just there during construction?
So the original plan was just having them there during construction, and then they could be removed post-construction once the meadow kind of took root. But after conversations with Carl, the town engineer, he just requested that they remain in place, and I had no issue with leaving them in place. They'll just be grassed basins, and then they have a gravel outfall to kind of maintain that that doesn't scour and go away. And so those will stay in place. Again, to kind of be conservative, I did not put those into my stormwater model. So that's kind of over and above the numbers that we are showing on the plan and in the stormwater model. Those will stay in place and continue to have water stay on site and further infiltrate into the ground as much as possible.
Okay. So the only, say, true infiltration basin is the one near the gravel driveway where you have a sediment forebay as pre-treatment.
Yep, that was the only one designed mostly to kind of treat all of the roadway.
Okay, so there's a lot of, so the whole site is going to be disturbed and graded, and it's gonna be a cut and fill, so is there any material coming off the site, or are you pretty much taking the hill down and distributing it throughout the site?
No, the plan is that material will be taken off site.
Some material will be taken off site.
Quite a lot of material will be taken off site. Right now, we're estimating it at about 65,000 cubic yards. But that is, it's a little bit of both. We will be also using some areas to fill in, but right now we kind of have material planned to come off site.
Okay,
And you are right, that's kind of the big hump that's in the middle of it.
right. So the material that you submitted references a vegetative management area, and I know with other solar fields, there's the arrays, and then there's an area usually where they keep the vegetation low. Well, I didn't necessarily see a symbol on any plan that outlined where that area was.
I don't know if we really had a vegetation management. Matt, if you go to the actual array itself,
Yep.
maybe to the one that the more detailed page, the one right after the stormwater, I think C104. So on this, you can kind of see south of the site, maybe not in the battery location, but all those areas kind of outside the fence. We don't really have any reason to maintain those as a meadow as we described. Those will be able to rebound even further past sort of the 2 to 3 foot that we were talking about earlier. And it also falls off in elevation pretty quickly, almost 5 feet from the edge of the fence to the edge of the woods. I could see those areas just being allowed to rebound to almost 15 to even 20 feet vegetation in those zones without really having any effect on the array itself. I don't know if we will manage it to a point of going in there and either adding more woods in there or not clearing some of the trees in there. The trees in there right now aren't really, it's more of like a scrubby tree mix that's in there right now. And we do need to grade it, as you can see, just because of the existing grades on that site. But after that, it will be allowed to rebound. I don't know if that is considered sort of a vegetation management as much as it mostly just be a passive vegetation management zone.
Okay, that was 2.4 project sequence of phasing, construction, and the SWEP. Phase 1 clearing, it talks about portions of this work will also include an area of selective clearing or vegetative management. So maybe it was language from another SWEP.
Yeah, it could have been that, or maybe an earlier design, but yeah, I think that might just be a typo.
Yeah, it says all these zones, all the work will be performed by foot, so only large trees which will shade the array will be removed. So maybe that probably needs to be updated.
Yep.
It also refers to limited grading. Well, when I look at the plan, the whole site's gonna be graded, so minor grading. In phase 2, stumping, grubbing, and minor grading. You might want to revise that. And then the contractor will be limited to clearing 5 acres at a time, and then they will be stabilizing the site within 14 days with a temporary seeding or whatever is necessary to stabilize it. I would prefer a plan that gave some designation of how the phasing is going to occur.
Yeah, I mean, could that be a condition of the permit. I just don't, I can make a lot of plans, but I'm not the actual contractor and how they go about starting their project and pursuing their project, but I could come up with an example. If that makes
Hey,
sense.
Landis, it's Dale Knapp from BRI. Just an idea to try and help kind of meet, I think, the request that you've made. Would a figure help represent it so you could see what a 5-acre block might look like? And then if Greg
My
was able
concern
to,
is more, I get schleps and they're in binders and they get tossed in the closet and never seen again. So plans, which are part of bid documents and
Narrative.
contractors know how to look at and look and read, that's what they follow. So if in the SWAP is hidden 5 acres phasing plan and I go out there, where you're clearing now, where are you clearing next? Like to see it on, that's why I like to see it on a plan. So the
Yep.
contractor knows that they have to do that, and I have some idea of what area they're clearing, and then they're actually stabilizing that area and move on. So I mean, it could possibly be done at the pre-construction meeting prior to, but I want it somewhere else other than in the SWAP.
Yep, I can do that. This site will be pretty easy because it's 15 acres pretty much, so it'll just
it's
be
like 3 blocks and then a
3
narrative.
blocks. And they'll
Yeah,
probably
so if
just
it's a
move.
sheet and then it gets revised later, that's fine, but
Yep, I can definitely create that.
then also our bylaw and regulations does state that either a approved and signed SWAP should be provided to the commission or an erosion control plan. You have a draft, but it's pretty detailed, so I appreciate that. Again, just having a plan with a phasing, some kind of phasing and a note about the stabilization and what that means is helpful. Then also and again, when I was looking at the plans, it was erosion control plan and then post-construction stormwater. And your site's a little different because you have the infiltration basin and then you have these sediment basins, and then you have a lot of possibilities for managing stormwater during construction. It'd be a little clearer if one sheet showed the construction entrance, the staging area, the temporary sediment basins, the erosion control, that you're gonna have additional erosion control stockpiled on site. The commission doesn't like wattles, they like the socks. Just all the information pertaining to stormwater management during construction on one plan.
Okay.
And that could include the phasing note, at least on the plan, if not the areas or some idea of the areas. I think that was pretty much all I had right now. Pass it on to the other commissioners.
Okay. Dean, any questions?
Dean Bevis, for the record. Question on some soil. So you guys are going to be removing a lot of soil. You're going to be transporting to the site lots of topsoil. Is there going to be an effort to save the topsoil on site during clearing?
As much as is left on site, I'm a little concerned that a lot of the topsoil has already been removed from the site from the past excavation work, but we will be retaining any topsoil that we can. Obviously, it makes sense because it's already on the site, and they won't have to kind of purchase it outside of the site. So we will be keeping as much as we can on site.
Yeah. Can we ensure that that soil is clean and from a virgin source? There's a lot of contaminated topsoil out there.
Sure. Yeah, I can write that into the topsoil note that's on C201.
Appreciate that. What's FR3 fluid in the transformers?
So it's a dielectric. I I don't know the full name of it. I did give a MSDS sheet for you, but
Oh,
in a very layman's term, it's kind of like a vegetable oil.
okay. So it's just MODF.
Yeah.
MODF, mineral oil dielectric fluid. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. And the batteries, it's just water, right? There's no chemicals in any of the batteries.
I don't even think there's fluids really in the batteries themselves. I think I don't know the exact battery to be used, but I think it's mostly just lithium that could be in them. But I don't know a whole lot about the materials in the batteries, but they don't require secondary oil or secondary
Containment. And
containment.
it's like, do you provide an MSDS for those? Because it could be
once
hazardous, right?
What's that?
Could be hazardous, right? If a
We'll
fire.
once the battery's chosen, yes, I think we have an example right now of a particular battery. I forget the one that we provided to the town.
Where are you going to be stockpiling the soil and during the excavation?
My thought process is actually probably pretty close to the roadway, kind of right as you get into where the current opening in the woods opens up, just because that will be an area that's kind of already robbed of its topsoil, so that would be a good location to prep it and then be able to spread it out afterwards.
Do you
Kind of
guys
right
have
where
a-
it's- Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you guys have a truck route, do you guys have to do that? A trucking route? Because I mean, a lot of soil. That's a lot of trucks.
We are still looking into how and who will be the off-taker for the soil. So once we determine that, we will look at a possible trucking route. We even have conversations of working with, we just haven't found a off-taker yet.
Perhaps
for the
very
soil.
close by.
That is our hope, that it would be very close by.
I hope so. That would be great.
I can't say that for sure, but that there is hope for that.
Good. Yeah, it seems like it's pretty good material.
So
You guys
just
can do-
include that stockpile area on the plan that I'm asking for with stormwater management.
Yeah, the EPSC plan.
Is this
If you could-
what you're talking about, Greg? This area?
Yeah.
No, I kind of thought it'd be more where it says provide motion activated emergency lighting, kind of right in that location, because it's flat and
Already
it
cleared.
Yeah, here.
kind of right where that note is. Yeah.
Oh, okay, right here.
You guys have like a stockpiling objective? We're going to stockpile 500 cubic yards and do loadouts, or is it just going to be load until go? Do you have a plan yet?
No, not really. We have to kind of find the off taker and then determine how quickly we could move stuff.
Okay. Do you guys have a dust monitoring, dust control plan?
No, not yet.
Landis, are they obligated to do that?
Well, I think there is an item in the SWAP that refers to keeping the dust down, I believe.
Okay.
I read
That's
that.
good.
I have notes in my details about dust control, but I don't have a actual dust control plan.
Yeah. The stockpiling, it's stockpiling is going to be stockpiled. The soil is going to be stockpiled longer than a certain time period. We should put erosion controls around it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
All right. No
outlined-
more.
Yep, that's outlined in my detail as well. That all stockpiles will be surrounded by silt fence.
Mulch tubes. Okay. Great. No more questions from me. Thank you.
Bailey?
No questions.
Okay. Doug?
I have no further questions.
Emilio?
From start to finish, what is the length of the project?
Of construction or of the,
Well, basically clearing to completion of the project.
that's going to heavily depend on how quickly and how motivated the material moving process is. That can go very quickly depending on sort of the scale of the equipment thrown at it, or if that would sort of be over one season and then the build would be on another season. But if we take that out of the equation, sort of clearing to fully erected project normally takes about a summer. So somewhere between 5 to 6 months.
Okay. So you'll clear in 5 acre segments and stabilize that and move on to the next 5 and so on. So you'll stabilize all that with land, did you say, seeding and so on?
Yep, I have a temporary and permanent seed called out on my site plan, as well as Matt mentioned the pollinator mix as well. The temporary seed has a little bit more rye in it, which just kind of pops a little bit closer to a week and a half to 2 weeks. So it really helps provide some quick stabilization when needed. And then we also have multiple sort of different materials that we can use for temporary stabilization, such as hay, straw, mulch, erosion control mix. All that's outlined on C2.00.
Okay. So you're going to truck out 56,000 cubic yards in a matter of a few months. Is that accurate?
It was 65,000 cubic. Yeah. And as I mentioned, that really is very dependent on how much sorry, I'm blanking on it, but how much equipment you throw at the problem. If we're talking just kind of a few dump trucks, it would take a whole season to take that much off. But if somebody really needed that and had the ability to take on that much, it could go 2 months. It could go down to 2 or 3 months sort of thing. So at this moment, we're still working to try to find that off taker. When that off taker's found, I think we'd be able to more refine that scope. But it could be something like that process takes an entire construction season, and then the project might construct the next season after, at which case it would be permanently stabilized sort of in that intermediate time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Betsy?
Yeah, a comment and a question. So my comment is I think this is continued to another night because we were awaiting the engineer's comments, town engineer, and also you're updating your notebook so that it conforms a little bit to what we're typically looking for stormwater management. I mean, here and there, some things have been brought up that maybe shouldn't be quite so boilerplate in the notebook. And then a question, are there already a lot of invasive species on this site? I actually walked out there a few years ago. I know it's a great big gravel pit that was used by off-road vehicles. That was my impression of it. But do you have a lot of invasives out there?
Yeah, this is Dale Knapp from BRI. Indeed, there are some woody vines and definitely some invasives kind of closer to the road along the back fringe of the site.
Is that back fringe the part that you were talking about letting it kind of, that's what I was actually thinking of, that back fringe that you said, oh, well, maybe just let that grow up to.
It's if I guess, Matt, where your hand is there, kind of behind those wetlands. So actually in the area that Greg was talking about using for storage, much closer to the road.
Oh.
So actually, I think that berm right there is primarily where I observed invasive species. I think there was some knotweed out there. I think there was some Lonicera as well. And so actually, this, management of that, removal of that vegetation, hopefully would reduce the spread of those species. But I didn't observe any along the back of the site or to the south of the site.
Okay. All right. Thanks. That's it for the moment.
Al?
Well, I have a couple of concerns. When this is regraded, what's the finished grade? Because you're going to take a whole lot of stuff out of there. So the finished grade, what's that going to be in relation to the flood zone that's not too far away from the Neponset River? Okay, so I want to know, you're going to grade this out level, but you're removing it all instead of just filling in the low spots. And that's one of my concerns. The next one is we've had a bad experience with a solar farm with erosion because they cleared off the whole place and it wasn't stable and we had erosion with water. Well, what about nowadays? We seem to have an awful lot of high winds. What are you going to do to keep the dust down? And I don't see anything about watering when you're reestablishing these grasses. They're not going to grow if it's we go for 2 months or 3 months without rain. So I think we have to have a plan there for how you're going to maintain these grasses in their infant stage and while they're just generating. And of course, we don't use those straw wattles that weigh nothing and wash away. We like compost socks that are heavy and stay there when it rains, and they stay there when the wind blows. In one of the more recent conversations you mentioned, the batteries. I think batteries are a great idea, but we all have heard and have seen results of batteries catching fire. I don't see anything to indicate that you have a fire suppression system on site. And if nobody's going to be there on a regular basis, you could have a bonfire going and not even know it. So those are some of my concerns. I like the possibility that you can sell this power to someplace local instead of the other solar farms we have. Sell it. We have absolutely no idea or control over where it's going. It's certainly not going into Walpole, and we have a program at Town Hall to help reduce our electric bills, and maybe this ought to be contributing to that program there. But I'm concerned about you taking all this fill off site and lowering the elevation. Will that elevation eventually be close to the elevation that floods in the area? So those are my concerns, and I want to see something to address those. Okay, Jack.
Okay, thanks, Al. Question on the containment for the transformers. You've got a moat surrounding the vault. If you could explain that, how that works. Plus, the vault itself, is there enough weight on the transformers so that doesn't float? I don't know how deep that vault is, but relative to the water table.
Yeah, so I mean, that is a normal electric vault. They're normally only, I think, Matt, if you go to the last detail page. So, I mean, I kind of tried to draw it here. Those vaults, normally the moat that surrounds the vault is about 3 feet deep, and the vault itself probably will only sit an additional 2 feet below that. And that actually has a weep hole in it to allow it not to float. The transformer will sit on top of that vault, and it will actually sit on top of another sort of concrete cover. In that cover, if anything were to happen, materials would just overflow on top of the cover into the moat. That moat is actually filled with stone, so it'll kind of just look like the transformer is just kind of surrounded by a stone sort of area, and it's designed to sort of just if anything leaks off of it, it leaks into there, and then there's a sort of outlet barrier boom that kind of reacts with any sort of oil, or in this case, they have one that reacts with the FR3 fluid, and it kind of locks that up, and so it'll let water through. But then once, if anything were to happen, it'll lock up and it'll hold everything else. And so that mode is designed for not only, I believe it's 1 point. Matt, if you kind of shift up a little bit, you can see the calculation that over to the left a little bit. There you go. So it's 125% of the total. I'm calling it oil in this case, but it is going to be the FR3 fluid. So 1.25 times that amount plus a 24-hour storm event happening simultaneously at the exact same time. So we feel this is a pretty good, it just allows for a lot of containment at once. We have had these, I've never had one of these float. The transformers are normally heavy enough to keep them down, and I do not expect the water table in this area to be higher than 5 feet. I had a conversation with Carl, and he also agreed that kind of the water table is likely at the elevation of all those pockets of wetlands that are around the site. We will be evaluating the test pits on site with him as part of his sort of comments that he would like. But in all of my calculations, I kind of used that elevation of 182 as an expectation for the water elevation on site. And so all the transformers, if you can kind of see where those are located, those will be almost 10 feet higher, with that sitting in the ground maybe 5 feet. And furthermore, we also will have a under drain system around that to kind of keep those dry, even more dry as well. Does that answer that question?
Okay. Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. You have anybody that trying to get in?
You can just unmute yourself or let me know in chat.
Nobody there?
Not that I could tell.
Okay. Okay. You are going to look for some additional information, Landis?
Yes, I would like the erosion control, stormwater management during construction plan with everything that's anticipated being applied, and if that is revised once you have a contractor, that's fine, but I think we need to start somewhere on a plan and not just in text. And I think was the main thing that I wanted to see. So that would include stockpile areas, that would include the temporary basins, the construction entrance, some kind of phasing, notes on temporary stabilization, erosion control, the silt sock being used and any silt fence being used. Yeah.
I think we also need to, since there'll be a lot of traffic coming out of this with the sand and gravel removal, that there be something in our order that would include making sure that whatever is on the truck stays, it does not get dropped on the street. So some kind of, I think more than the usual construction pad entrance, but we also want that if there are issues with that they come up with an additional means to keep that from getting out on the street. And what else? Oh, and we were looking at some information regarding, that would be on the plan regarding the storage of the topsoil, and then it would be, Dean, how did you, you had a request about the topsoil?
Yeah, it's a common statement. It's just this topsoil shall be sourced from a virgin source and not be like reused. It's common language for engineer.
Specs for the topsoil that's brought
Yeah.
onto the site.
Yeah. Okay,
And just dust management.
yeah, yes, I think there should be, you should have a plan with, depending on what the situation is, on how you would handle the dust, and also, as Al brought up, is how you're gonna get the vegetation started, the grasses started, so they, till they take hold. So,
And Betsy, you had brought up the invasive species, so putting a note on the plan that invasive species should be taken off site and disposed of.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I mean, I hate invasive species, especially the kind that Japanese knotweed and bittersweet and all that. And that's another reason to make sure it's good topsoil, make sure it's not being
Right.
brought in from somewhere where it just reseeds itself.
okay, so, you have some things to do, to make some revisions. How soon can you get that done?
Our next meeting's the 26th.
We need revised plans in how many days ahead of the meeting?
For this particular, you know, if you can get them in, so our next meeting is the 26th, if you can get them in the Friday before the meeting, that would be enough time.
For the 21st. Yeah, are you guys gonna provide like a formal list of these requests, or should I just go back?
I took notes.
I
can
did too, but
email them out tomorrow as well.
yeah, that'd be
We're
helpful.
just all on the same page.
Yep, that'd be great. And I think we can get that done, no problem, before the 21st.
Okay, so you can, what do we have on for,
Would you like hard copies, as well as digital versions, obviously?
We would need a digital, and then I would need, just 4 copies
4 copies,
of the, yeah.
full-size plans.
Yes. And it can just be that one sheet. If you know, if you're revising one sheet, you don't have to send me a full set if you're not revising everything.
Okay, we'll send you only the revised stuff. Great.
okay,
So we're scheduled up to 7:45 on the 26th.
so, looking at that, we would make it at 8 o'clock? Would that
Okay.
fit? Okay, so we'll continue this till 8 o'clock on January 26th. Someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Dean,
Aye.
Bailey,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Emilio,
Aye.
Betsy,
aye.
Al,
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay, so it'll be 8 o'clock on January 26th.
Can I just have one more question? I know that the town engineer is still reviewing the plan set. If you could just maybe pass that along to us so that we could address any comments he has in addition to the comments that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so
Now,
in the
7:15.
folder, Jack, you have the folder, there's the determination. Can you just sign the signature sheets that I put in the folder
For this one.
for the determination. And then I will figure out how we're gonna handle everyone else.
Can you do the electronic signature? It should be 2 sheets here.
Yep.
Since we're back to Zoom, can't we use that electronic? Do we have to do anything
I have
about
to,
that?
I need to just confirm that because we're in uncharted territory at the moment. Yeah.
This is
On 30 West Street.
Town of Walpole Land Disturbance Permit Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with Walpole Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw regulations. Notice hereby given the intent to demolish existing structures and parking areas for development, mixed-use commercial residential units with paid parking areas, drainage, utility, landscaping improvements at 130 West Street and 25 Spring Street in Walpole, Mass. Plans for the land disturbance permit are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter held at Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, January 12, 2022, beginning at 7:15 p.m. All interested person requested to be present. Okay, time is now 8:07. So, do you have anything here to read in?
No.
See anything here. Okay, I guess nothing to read in. So, representing the applicant,
Oh, yes, I'm Steve Cabral with Crossman Engineering.
Actually, can you hold on a second? This is Carl's letter. Can you, I could brought it up on my phone if you want to.
for this one, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just gonna read the letter from the town engineer, if you can hold on a second.
This is, okay, report references, May 2021, revised October 21. We reviewed the plans previously for the planning board. In our previous review, we asked that a temporary sediment pond designed to contain 1 inch of runoff over the disturbed area on the site be provided. This is now shown on sheet C9 sediment and erosion control plan. Here are the following comments for the land disturbance review. Sheet C7, clarify roof drain connections to drainage system for units 11 through 22 by showing proposed piping from the units to the drainage system. The details provided on sheet C12 are helpful, but the piping layout must be shown. Note, drainage note number 1 is not a substitute for showing the layout of the drains. Here goes. In drainage structure table, change all frame and covers from 24 to 26 inch. CB7, CB8 have very short rim to invert distances and should be noted as special CBs. A detail will need to be provided on sheet C11. That detail will need to show an CB with an 8-inch flat top and a 4-inch frame, pipes running CB7 to 8 to DMH 12 should be specified as 12-inch class 52 CLDI. Sheet C12 details. Presence of a weir or orifice in the baffle of the details for DMH2 will remain under review and be coordinated. Further review of the drainage system, we do not see the need for it, and it appears to reduce the volume available for infiltration in that system. drainage narrative and assessment. They have reviewed a prior submission for the planning board and have also witnessed test pits, infiltration testing in the field. The site has very sandy, well-drained soils, no redox features witnessed in any of the test pit, and the test pit groundwater was observed was in the vicinity of UIS 3, closest to Spring Street. The design significantly reduces both rates and volume of stormwater runoff by utilizing 4 underground infiltration fields. There is no connection from these infiltration fields to the municipal drain. However, catch basins 13 and 14 are provided on the east side of the site as overflow for the infiltration fields. The design currently does not discharge from the 100-year storm for CB catch basin 13 UIS 1 and 2A, 2B, but does discharge from CB 14 UIS 3 for the 100-year storm and some lower storms. This causes me concern as it would now be concentrated discharge to the public way at a time when least needed. We are still working with Crossman Engineering with regards to this issue. Solution may be to provide a supplemental recharge for the UIS 3 so that storms to the 100-year storm are fully contained. Available should you have any questions. And this is that you had received a copy of this? Crossman
Oh,
Engineering?
I believe that must have just been emailed, so I haven't read through it all.
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
that dated today?
Yeah, it was probably today. That's why I hadn't seen it either. I just pulled it up on my phone. So,
It is
but we
dated-
can get you a copy.
It's dated
Oh.
January 12th. It said he copied it, but
Oh, yes. I believe I did see an email from Carl, but I just wasn't in the office to open and read.
okay. Go
But
ahead.
I must say, the town should be proud of Carl when it comes to drainage reviews. We've worked with him for the past few months on this, and Carl is definitely thorough, and he is doing his best to improve the town. So I give Carl credit for that.
Yes.
Okay, if I may,
You're
Orlando, if
on.
it's okay, is it okay to share my screen?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I have quite a few plan sheets, so what I'll do is I'll just do my best to be relatively quick and just hit the highlights. And basically, this is a site at the corner of West Street, which is at the top of the screen, and Spring Street. The site's a little less than 2 acres. It's about 1.87 acres. And as you can see in the aerial view, it's fully developed. There are 2 office buildings on site, and one of the tenants is Dry-X. And we did recently submit a land disturbance permit for a new building on Route 1. And the reason for that new building is actually for Dry-X to be relocated to Route 1, and that'll become their office headquarters. And I believe we may be on your next agenda for that project.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, the site's in the central business district, and it's outside of any water protection zones. There are no wetlands on the property. To the right of the property, which would be to the east, you can see there's a parking lot for the commuter rail. Then there's the train tracks, and then the Neponset River is probably 500 feet away to the east. This is the FEMA flood map, and as you can see, the site is right in Zone X, which is outside of the 100-year flood zone. This is the soil map, and 602, this is the Natural Resource Conservation Service soil map. 602 is identified as urban land, and the soil category just to the southwest is 600, which would be designated as a sand and gravel pit. Now, the reason NRCS identifies soils as urban land, it's just that it's been urbanized and there's no natural soils for them to witness. But as Carl mentioned in his review letter, he did witness soil evaluations with us on the property, and it was a very good sandy soil. And the water table in the middle of the site was approximately 10 feet deep. Now, this is an aerial, this is a theoretical image of what the project will look like after it's built. The layout is such that West Street is here on the right and Spring Street is on the left. And basically what we're proposing are 22 townhouse-style units, all which will have their own garage. And these buildings are unique in the sense that essentially there are 3 levels plus a basement. The first floor will be office space to be used solely by the owner of the townhouse, and the owners will live on the second and the third floor. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll just quickly go through each of the sheets. Okay, this sheet just represents the standard construction notes and the pavement thicknesses and the usual items. This is the plan that depicts the zoning. The blue represents the central business district, and across the street, the pink would be the manufacturing district. And there is a residential zone to the left, which would be to the west. Okay, what we have here is an aerial view side by side of the existing and proposed. And again, you can see on the left that the majority of the site is impervious. It's either impervious or I hate to say a poorly maintained lawn. And there's just the fringe of trees at the southern end. And on the right, you'll see we concentrated most of the activity to the interior of the site so that we could have landscape buffers at the back of the buildings. And again, as you can see, we have the 24 units. Each unit will have their own garage. And one of the unique features of the building design is that each of the units will actually have a patio on top of the garage. So it will be a unique design. Okay, this plan represents the existing conditions plan, which identifies the site topography. Basically, the majority of the site is relatively flat, but as you travel to the northeast towards the intersection of West and Spring, the ground does drop about 10 feet. So there is a 10-foot grade difference from the high, which is at the southern end, to the low at the intersection. Okay, the next plan just is what we call our, basically identifies all of the items to be removed and demolished, basically identifying the pavement to be removed, the buildings to be removed, and where the capping of the existing utilities will be. Now, one of the benefits of this site is it does have full access to public water and public sewer. One of the concerns that was brought to our attention before we designed anything is that the town has a drainage issue just to the east of the site where West Street goes beneath the train tracks. It was brought to our attention that there's a sag in the road and the drainage system that the town has is just undersized and it can't accommodate the flow that it gets today. And that's one of the reasons that Carl has been pointing us in the direction of holding as much runoff on site as possible. Okay, this plan just identifies the overall layout, showing the buildings, the width of the pavement, which will have 24-foot wide driveways. We do have some guest parking, and again, we have the garage parking, and then we have an additional parking space for each of the residents. One of the benefits to the town is that we will be building a new sidewalk all along the frontage along West Street. Currently, there is no sidewalk on West on this side of the road. So after working with the planning department and the planning board for the past few months, we agreed to include sidewalks inside the property so that any of the residents could walk out their front door, take the sidewalks, and then if they take the shortcut and go straight to the intersection of West and Spring, will have an ADA accessible ramp so they could get down to a plaza and then a new walkway. Or they could take the walkways on site and go to a brand new sidewalk on West Street and then just travel, towards the commuter rail. And what this plan shows is that we made sure that we have adequate sight distance for any of the vehicles exiting the property. Okay, this plan represents our drainage and grading plan. And what you see here, the light blue shaded areas represent the underground infiltration systems. As I said earlier, the soils are very good, sandy, the water table is deep. And as I'll show you after I go through the plans, we have a significant reduction that by far exceeds any town or state standard when it comes to stormwater mitigation. We're treating all of the runoff from all the impervious surfaces in regards to the water quality and the recharge standards. And based upon Carl's input, we're going above and beyond what's normally required. So basically, all of the runoff from the pavement will be captured in catch basins. Then they'll be routed through a swirl chamber to help remove the coarse solids before it gets into the underground chambers. And when it comes to the roof drains, we had made a notation that all of the rooftops need to tie into the underground drainage system. And we had, as Carl mentioned in his letter, we have a detail on the detail sheets. And Carl is just saying he'd like us to show where the roof leaders actually tie in. The reason we didn't do that is, of course, all of the ridge lines and gutters are not quite designed on of the buildings, but we will certainly be glad to accommodate that request. Okay, the next plan, this plan represents the proposed utility plan, and because the site is relatively compact, we have quite the network of underground utilities. We have, of course, the sanitary sewer. We have a new 8-inch water main. Then we'll have gas mains. We'll have underground electric, telephone, and cable. And then we have an assortment of drainage structures and the underground infiltration system throughout. Okay, we do provide a separate soil erosion and sediment control plan. And what we did, based upon the topography of the site, we know that runoff is naturally going to head towards the intersection of West and Spring. So again, after working with Carl, this is where we decided to put an infiltration basin. This is a temporary structure, which is intended to collect the runoff in any of the silt during rainstorms prior to the installation of the impervious surfaces in the underground infiltration system. Now, this plan does not identify any permanent measures. This plan only identifies temporary measures during construction. For example, we show construction access points, which would be a crushed stone access, both from West and Spring. The reason we have them on two streets is depending upon the flow of the workers or the construction equipment, we don't want them to have to continually go through an intersection. We thought it was best to provide two. We do show a potential stockpile area, but the stockpile will actually float. It'll move as construction occurs. And we do have site-specific dust control notes so that we make sure the contractor is aware that he may have to use water to help moisten the soil, or potentially calcium chloride granules just to help, keep the soil tight so it doesn't tend to blow in the wind. We've also submitted a detailed SWIP, which identifies the construction measures in more detail. And we've also submitted an operations and maintenance plan for the long-term maintenance of the underground drainage systems. Okay, the next sheet just gives all of your standard construction details, the parking lot striping, the curb installations, the sidewalk installations, etc. And continuing on to the next, we have the standard catch basin and manhole details. And this happens to be the frame and grate that Carl mentioned. this is the new comment. He didn't mention it previously. We were using the standard 24-inch inlet structure, and I just heard that he prefers 26, and that's certainly easy to accommodate. The detail on the lower left, that represents a detail and sizing of that temporary sediment trap. And we also show a detail of your typical material stockpile area to make sure that the contractor is aware that he has to have the filter stock around any stockpile area. Okay, the next sheet identifies the typical details of the underground infiltration system. Basically, we're using the high-density polyethylene perforated chambers surrounded by crushed stone and a filter fabric, and we provided details of how the roof drains would be interconnected. Now, this structure here that I'm pointing to is one of the structures in between two infiltration units, and we do have an orifice inside one of the structures. And I heard in that memo that was read by the chairman that Carl wasn't sure if that was necessary. But one of the reason we have that is that there's infiltration systems on both sides of this structure, and the reason for that orifice is it allows the flow to balance between both of the infiltration units. So it actually allows us to increase the infiltration that occurs on site. Just continuing, we have more details of the utilities, the sewer, and the water systems. Next, we have a lighting plan. And the reason for this lighting plan is just to show that we have adequate lighting for the safety and security of the residents. Plus, we don't have excess lighting, so we do not have any light being, we'll say, light pollution onto the neighboring property. And all of the lights will be, of course, dark sky compliant. The next sheet gets into the landscaping that we've proposed. We wanted to make sure that we have adequate buffers to the neighbors, as well as having an attractive facility on the outside and inside for people to drive by and also for the residents. And then next is just some details of the landscaping plantings. Okay, this last sheet was prepared for the fire department and the public safety officials. And the image with the curves represents the town's fire truck. And we prepared this so that the fire chief could see that the fire apparatus could easily drive in and out of the complex. And the fire department was satisfied with that layout. Okay, this is one of the typical soil evaluation reports that we prepared, and these all were witnessed by the town's engineer. And again, basically it was a sandy soil with the water table that really wasn't evident in most spots, but we assumed it would be about 10 feet. Now based upon the state stormwater design handbook, for sandy soils, the state allows you to use an infiltration rate for your design of about 8.2 inches per hour. Now, when Carl saw how good the soil was, he felt that we should go a step further and instead of using a conservative number, actually do soil tests on site. So in the presence of Carl, we did do permeability tests, falling head tests on site. And we found that the actual infiltration rate is closer to 33 inches per hour. And so when we reran the numbers for the stormwater design, again, working with Carl, we used a factor of safety of 2. So we took the 33 inches per hour measured, divided it by 2, and then we performed an analysis to see, well, how much flow is actually being held if we used an infiltration rate of 16.68 inches per hour. And what we found, what I'll do is I'll go straight to the results using the falling head tests. Okay, this is a table that identifies all of the existing flow and the proposed flow exiting the site. EXA represents the existing, PR the proposed, And because everything flows towards the common intersection of Western Spring, we only have one watershed. And what we found is that under existing conditions during we'll say the 2-year storm, there's 0.64 cubic feet per second leaving the site. Under proposed conditions, there'll be 0. So there'll be nothing leaving the site from our underground system. During the 10-year storm, now again, this is only once every decade. What we found is that the existing flow of 2.55 is going to be reduced to 0.89 cubic feet per second. Now, this 0.89 CFS includes not only runoff from the drainage system, but there is a fringe of landscaped area between the buildings and West Street and Spring Street. So this 0.89 includes those areas. So the actual flow coming out of the overflow structure is much less than the 0.89. And if we were to use the 33.3 inch per hour value, the overflow once per decade is only 0.1 cubic feet per second. And if we were to go to the volume reduction, in our analysis, we looked at the peak flow as well as a volume reduction. For the 1-year storm event, we have 100% reduction in volume decrease. For the 2-year, 97%. For the 10-year, a 95% decrease in volume exiting the site. And if we were to go all the way to the 100-year storm, the way it's designed now, we're still providing an 82% decrease of runoff exiting the site. So this clearly shows that the design as proposed is going to be a significant benefit to the community because we're significantly reducing the effluent that's going to get to that low point. And from discussions with Carl, what Carl's comments now are focusing on is fine-tuning it just to see, can it be even better? From discussions, Carl had said he recognizes that this is a significant benefit. He's just asking, are there any minor tweaks that can be done to actually reduce this further? But as we work with Carl, over the next couple of weeks, there really will be no substantive change to the site plans themselves. If anything, it would just be a minor change to some of the details. So that's a very quick overview, and I'll be more than happy to do my best to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Landis?
Yeah, I just have 2 comments. One, so the buildings that exist on the site are gonna be demoed and the material stockpiled and removed from the site, I assume. And then
yes.
the site will be left for some period of time. So my question is, 1, how will the site be left and for how long before construction begins?
The intent of the owners would be to begin construction as soon as, well, there's sort of a domino effect. DryX has offices on this site. So the goal would first to be to actually build a facility potentially on Route 1 and move there prior to demoing, or they'd have to move to a temporary facility, which they may do. But it's my understanding that as soon as the buildings are demoed, construction of the new project is going to be continuous. So there is no intent to have a dormant period at this time. So as soon as the buildings are demoed, the contract would be required to follow our soil erosion control plan that's in the plan set, as well as the SWIP.
Okay. And then my other sort of comment was just my conversation with Carl today, and that was before he sent out that letter, but that he was looking to have another infiltration unit put in the parking area. That would be a change. And then just one more comment. So we're getting a little late here, but and my other comment is always when I look at this site and we're talking about stormwater management, we're looking at managing stormwater because of impervious surface. So I look at the plan and say, well, is there any way to reduce the impervious surface? I know Carl doesn't agree with me on this regarding pervious pavement areas, tree boxes, other green infrastructure, tools that are out there that a lot of urban areas use to infiltrate water from sites other than infiltration units under the ground. Have you looked at any of these?
We did look at reducing the amount of impervious as much as possible. And there was a time where we had narrower aisles. We were actually down to 20 feet. But one of the concerns of the fire department is that they wanted to make sure that when their fire trucks drive through the property, they pointed out that there's a state code requirement that the turn and swing of the fire truck cannot extend into an opposing lane. And in order to satisfy the code that dictates how you have to design an access to accommodate a fire truck, we actually had to increase the width of the lanes again. And we also minimized the amount of visitor parking as much as possible.
And any of the landscape areas that are, I believe, on the perimeter of the property, they can't be used for infiltration?
Well, on the perimeter of the property, you mean at the edge of the... Well, at the perimeter of the property, it's going to be natural, so there will be some natural infiltration. But what we found is you really need to have certain clearance from an infiltration system to a building so that you don't impact the basements. And you also don't want to have an infiltration system too close to a public street, so you don't want to have a situation where the base of the roadway becomes saturated and then it causes issues. Now, Landis, if I may, as I mentioned, we're reducing the stormwater runoff in volume significantly above and beyond any town or state standard that there is. And we certainly did that because we agree that there is a problem and we wanted to do everything that we possibly could. But if you glance at this utility plan, you're going to see that the footprint of the water, the sewer, the gas, the underground electric and cable, and the infiltration systems does not leave a substantive amount of space. The only area would be to put a very small infiltration system here. So we could certainly look at that with Carl, but is there going to be a significant benefit to make spending the thousands worth it? It's certainly questionable, but we will look at that. So none of Carl's comments are going to result in a substantive change. That was my intent.
Okay, yeah, and fair enough. I always want to push developers, designers to look at green spaces, even in urban areas.
Yes.
So that's why I always ask these questions. Is there
I
anywhere
agree.
else you can create pervious surface, landscape areas, trees on site? I understand this is a very densely developed site.
Yeah, it's-
You got a lot jammed in it. You got a lot in there. So I always like to challenge, is there any green space or shading that we can provide in the design which would benefit the urban area?
Yes, nope, I agree. One edit that was made over the past couple of months is the architect, after hearing similar feedback, was that he actually reduced the size of some of the units as much as possible. So I do know the owner and the architect did their best to squeeze the size of the buildings to the smallest extent possible, and even the location of the garages, they're as close to the road as possible to fit, one more car in front. So I can honestly say that working with the owner, the architect for the past 6 months, we did do our best to maximize green space. And I do agree, looking at the plan, there seems to be a lot of impervious, but there's certainly a significant amount of underground infiltration system. So the net gain is significant when it comes to groundwater recharge as well as water quality. Because currently, and one thing I should have said in the beginning is that under existing conditions, you have the significant paved area where there are no water quality controls whatsoever. There's not even a catch basin on site. All of the runoff and pollutants on the parking lots just drain directly into Spring and West Street. And that will not happen with the proposal. That's all of the runoff will be collected, treated, infiltrated.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, and I can say the planning board and Carl, they've done their best to squeeze and push. And like I said, they're certainly looking out for the town, just like you.
Okay, Bailey, any questions?
Yeah, two, sorry, I might have misheard. Is it 22 or 24 units?
22. There was a time it was 24. And part of the downsizing, when the units were a little bit larger, it was also agreed to, I'm just going to triple check, but I'm sure it's 22. No, 6 months ago it was 24. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. We can all look together. Yeah, so 2 parking spaces per unit, so 22 units.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And my second question regarding unit setup, you said the first floor could be used as office space. Is that like something that the owners could also lease out?
No, the actual, based upon the zoning ordinance, this is a unique building, so that say if you owned unit 1, you would be required to have your office on the first floor, and the living space would be on the upper 2 floors. So the first floor cannot be used as living space, and the first floor is used by the owner of the property. It's not leasable space.
And Steve, can I jump in for a quick second here?
I was hoping you would.
Yes, absolutely. Good evening. I'm Michael Wigney of Mackey and Mackey. I'm one of the associate attorneys on the project. And so the concept is really to have, because it's in the central business district, to do a combination living and workspace that is owned by a single person. So it's a townhouse style unit with a garage and a patio. And the concept is living spaces on floors 2 and 3. And on the first level, commercial spaces that would be for things like therapists or makeup artists or something really, an actual separated and designated business space that you don't want as a part of like a home office, a little bit distinct, but not rentable space, not restaurants, not gyms. It's intended to function as a mixed use development that is a contiguous part of the CBD. So it's kind of viewed as, you get out of downtown Walpole and you start to move into the residential area. So this is kind of a transitional space.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Dean, was there anything else, Bailey?
Nope.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Dean?
No comments.
Okay, Doug,
No comments.
Emilio,
So if you're gonna have commercial businesses here, where's the parking for that gonna be?
So there are 2 spaces per unit that are designated, and those can either be used for personal parking space or a commercial parking space. And then there are a limited number of visitor parking spaces for that purpose. And then the site is intended to be, you could walk to it or bike to it. It's designed to have easy access to the commuter rail. And as mentioned before, there are going to be limits on the customer facing commercial nature of this space. So there will be, specific limitations drafted into the condominium documents that prevent uses that will have multiple cars or, an excessive quantity of customers at a time. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And one thing I'd like to just add, that's what Michael said, is that we do fully meet all of the zoning requirements. So we do meet all of the parking setback standards. We're not seeking any waivers. We're here. The project is by right. I just want to make sure you knew we're not seeking any variances for reducing parking.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's beyond the purview of conservation. I'm just curious about the parking, but I have no further questions.
Anything else, Emilio?
No.
Oh, okay. Betsy?
No comments.
Al?
No comments.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. If anybody trying to buzz in here?
You can just unmute yourself if you have a comment and you are in the audience. Or say something in chat.
Okay. Hearing none. Do we need the revisions here?
If the applicant wants to close tonight and they're pretty confident that there's going to be no major revisions, then they can request to close.
I think the only thing that was recommended, an additional infiltration unit, was that?
Yeah, Carl had mentioned that, but I don't know if further along in the afternoon he changed his mind, but it would be because of the overflow. I believe he said because of the overflow during the 100-year storm, which would bubble out through the catch basin near Spring Street.
Yeah.
That was one of the situations that could occur, but if, it's a.
Yeah, and just to clarify, that bubbling overflow is, say, 90% less than the overflow that goes there today.
Mm-hmm.
And we did agree to work with Carl, and if there's any additional area that could be used to reduce that, we certainly would. But in regards to land disturbance, it certainly wouldn't be a substantive change. I mean, it would certainly be great if we could close the hearing, and administratively we could certainly submit to Landis the change, and if she felt it was so substantial the full commission should see it, we could certainly come back. But even if we were to add that small infiltration unit, it wouldn't add to the area to be disturbed. It's beneath a proposed parking area.
Okay.
There certainly would be no additional clearing or earthwork.
Okay.
Right, it would just add to the stormwater management, which we do cover under the stormwater and erosion control bylaw, but I think it would be fine that we could just write a condition that if the plan, the commission would get a copy of the plan that was approved, the site plan approved by the planning board.
Oh, that would be greatly appreciated.
All right, someone may make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Dean?
Aye.
Bailey?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Emilio?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay, so to close the hearing, and we have conditions on here.
Right, so I would add a condition that we get a copy of the approved site plan. And I guess also just if if there's over 30 days, I think that if there's, I was just thinking, sometimes things happen and sites get left from demo to construction, unforeseen events. So I would just want something to be filed with the commission if there was a lag of time of over, 30 days or 90 days or whatever the commission feels is appropriate of how the site would be left.
You think 30 days would be more appropriate here?
Yeah, I think 30 days is fine. I mean, you have the temporary sediment basin, but if there's a lag between demo and construction greater than 30 days, that we receive additional information of how the site's gonna be left.
Okay. So subject to that condition.
And then a pre-construction meeting, which is kind of standard.
Pre-construction meeting, right, that's standard.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have anything else they wanted to add? Okay, so we'll make a motion to write the order as noted.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Dean?
Aye.
Bailey?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Emilio?
Aye.
Betsy?
aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jack? Aye. Okay. Good enough, thank you. Do you have anything you want me to sign, or?
Yeah, I want you to sign this. Just sign these and I'll change the name. It's not correctly on there, but, oh, why did, I got bumped out of Zoom again? What? I didn't know, not that I know of, did I? No. How did- I got bumped out of the Zoom meeting at one point. I'm trying to get back in. I don't know. I don't know what happens. We're working on it, Betsy. I'm trying to figure out, somehow we got bounced out of Zoom, and I don't know why, and now I'm trying to get back into Zoom. Yeah, everybody. The whole thing. I don't know. Patrick originally got me in.
Well,
Okay,
We're-
all right.
way
Sorry
too
about
late.
that.
What do we have?
All right, Landis, are you all set?
I think yeah, for some reason it got bounced out of Zoom, everyone, all of it, so I'm not sure what happened.
All right,
It
I'm
looks
gonna
like
jump
we
up.
all did, Landis.
Yeah, we all got bounced out, so we're back in. Thank you, Patrick, both
All right, have a good
Patricks.
meeting.
Where is Al?
I'm here.
He's there,
Okay.
okay. I think we're okay now, Patrick Shields, thank you.
All right, we're at the 7:30 land disturbance permit for 585 Washington Street. Is that? That's where we're at.
We are,
Okay.
yeah, Washington Street, so,
Town of Walpole Land Disturbance Permit Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with the Walpole Stormwater Erosion Control Bylaw and regulations. Notice is probably given the intent of Anna Nardone and John Lapolis to construct an access road and related appurtenant utilities and stormwater management systems at 585 Washington Street in Walpole, Mass. Plans for the land disturbance permit are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing, the above matter will be held at Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street on October 13, 2021, beginning 8:15 p.m. Unless the person requests to be present, hearing has been opened and continued. Do we have anything new to be read in?
did I include the letter from Dan Merkin in the
There's a-
file?
There's a letter here, yes. This is Garden Path Estates.
Yep.
On the behalf of the applicant, State John Lapolis, Kara Mary Kelly, we're pleased to submit the enclosed land disturbance permit application. Now, this is September 9th. Letter. That must have been read. Is there something new?
For
Here's
sure, I
something.
put something in there.
Okay, all right, here's something. This is January 12th, okay. From Legacy Engineering, dear members of the commission, on behalf of the applicant, I'm ready to request a continuance without discussion at tonight's hearing as part of the review process. A few minor revisions to make to the plan, which we will submit next week. We would appreciate an appointment on your January 26th meeting. Do not hesitate to contact me if you should have any questions. Okay, now, what have we got on for?
So we just scheduled the Neponset Solar Fields for 55 South Street at 8 PM.
So we got time on that meeting?
I don't care if they can see me.
We got
Look,
one, two,
yeah,
three,
you
four.
wanna
We
see
have 5
me?
hearings already.
No, don't bother.
So the changes that he's making will be really minor. They're for the planning board, really. It's gone through us once before, so it should be relatively quick.
Okay, I think we can fit that in. So
Because I
that'll
could
be,
try to do it.
No, you probably lose it.
Okay, so
8:15.
Al, you need to mute yourself, lower left-hand corner.
Okay, so we'll continue this until 8:15 on January 26th. Someone make that a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
We have a second, okay. All in favor? That would be Dean,
Dean, aye.
Bailey,
Aye.
Doug? Doug on?
We don't have Doug.
With Douglas.
Oh, we lost. We lost Doug.
Okay, media, let's see, we got, media.
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
Al? You have to unmute yourself to respond. Okay, just raise your hand, aye. Al, okay, and Jack, aye. So we'll continue this until 8:15 on January 26th. So this is, what is this?
See if they hear you now.
585,
I can hear you, Al.
Okay,
585 Washington Street. Okay, that takes care of that one.
I just emailed Doug and told him to sign back in. He might not know to do that.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to, I thought I had his phone number, I was looking for his phone number.
Okay, we're at
You get,
Bumbling Brook.
yes,
I
Bubbling
got
Brook.
this one, okay. Where is the ad?
It's not in there. I always staple them to the front, so it doesn't, so it's not there. It's not there.
What is this for?
Gotta wing it. Add notice of intent and the correct address.
This is a,
Notice of intent, continued notice of
This
intent.
is a continued notice of intent for 48 Bubbling Brook. Applicant Michael and Sarah Madden. In accordance with the Walpole bylaw and the Wetlands Protection Act. The hearing was opened and continued, and now we have anything new to be read in? I don't see anything here.
Just the correspondence from the applicant and the plan.
Okay, so
Because I assume the applicant can give a synopsis of the changes.
okay, representing the applicant?
For the record, sir, my name is Bernard Hamill. I'm representing Mr. and Mrs. Madden this evening, who are the owners of the property, and I'm the engineer of record for the site. We met with you last month to discuss the project. You asked for some changes. We think we've made them all, but I'll go through them anyway. We noted the riparian zones that were requested. We also sent a little sketch last minute to Ms. Hershey to show
Can I
that.
ask for you to try to do a share screen with a plan?
I can try.
Because we're on Zoom here.
Yeah, I know.
All right, Bailey, your turn.
Let's say,
I-
that's a teachable moment.
Come on, Bailey.
Come on, Bailey.
I
do
need it
it.
turned on so I can share the screen. It's disabled at the moment. Can you see that?
No, that's my screen.
Okay.
Sorry, okay, go ahead. It got changed when we got bumped up.
Apologies. Anyway, we prepared a riparian zone plan. We're actually working in about 4,300 square feet of the outer riparian zone, which was covered under the original notice of intent, which, by the way, is still active. There was some questions about the drainage on the wall. We provided a tow drain along the wall with an outlet on two sides of the wall to deal with any potential runoff. Specified on the plan, Allen blocks are equal. Normally, that's a standard block, and it's a fairly solid block. We also have geogrid backing behind the wall to hold the blocks in place where the wall is extra high. We're requested to provide a location of all the downspouts and the exits for the downspouts. We did that on the plan as well, showing that. We also provided a flared end for all the downspouts so that there'd be no erosion. It'll be an energy dissipator.
Landis, can I share? Which plan are we looking at, Mr. Hamel?
You should be looking at the site plan, sheet 1,
Yep, Bubbling Brook.
48 Bubbling Brook, sheet 1.
Are you on the website, Bailey?
Yep. All right, might take a minute. My internet's not great. Keep going, Mr. Hamel.
Okay. We were also asked to identify the fencing. We specified it as a 42-inch chain link fence. We also were asked to specify the markers that were to be placed. Those will be placed prior to any start of work for the no alteration. And I believe we also asked to acquire a DEP file number for this particular project, which I believe was issued by the Mass DEP.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm open to any questions you might have, and I think we've addressed all the issues.
Okay, Landis?
Yeah, the plan is not really up, but, so the last time we met, we looked at a plan with the patio and the pool and the wall, and I know there were some questions about the wall. We did not have a DP number or DP comments yet. The original house was permitted by the Conservation Commission for a house and a rear grassed yard. It was 4,600 plus square feet of riverfront area alteration for the backyard. So I know I had some discussions with DP talking about the difference between the alteration for the backyard versus alteration for an impervious pool and patio and wall, and how that is different. Originally, I was thinking once you alter the riverfront area, you alter the riverfront area, but it doesn't. It's the interest of the river as well, you know, for stormwater and flood control and other things. So I think DEP originally was asking for alternative plans, an alternative analysis for this site. I think you submitted some information, either no build, but not any really different designs for what the pool or the patio, either making it smaller or orienting it different to pull more of the site out of the riverfront area, or moving the wall closer to the pool and patio so that you're also not filling more of the riverfront area. Those are all options under the Rivers Protection Act, and it was more explained again by DEP that the 5,000 and 10%, it's not a given, it's a discretion of the commission to allow or not to allow based on the impacts to the wetlands or in the riverfront area. My only concern is that it's there's not a large backyard to begin with, and before there was grassed area, and now a significant part of the grassed area is going to be encompass the pool and the wall and the patio, and there's not going to be much left there. And I've already been approached by the developer on behalf of the owner, I believe, to take down some of the trees in the river, in the 25-foot no alteration area because of the concern with the trees to the existing property. So I just want to make sure that the property owner understands completely that there's a 25-foot no alteration area, and then there's an absolute limit on any additional square footage of riverfront area. So this is what you have. You know, we are conscious of pruning trees if they're a danger, but there won't be any other expansion of the yard because of the lot is a very tight lot with a lot of wetlands resources, the riverfront area, and the buffer zone that's protected to protect the wetlands. So the pool and the patio are going to take up a significant part of the backyard.
Yes, ma'am. Heard clearly.
So those are my only comments, just to let the commission know that it is your discretion to allow or not allow the additional work within the riparian area, even though you had approved it for a lawn under a previously notice of intent, that it's still up to the discretion of the commission to allow the pool or not to. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. Dean,
No questions.
Bailey,
No questions.
Doug,
No questions.
Emilio,
Also,
Betsy?
All right, I think there are two reasons to continue this, even though I guess it's not my call. I guess you have to request to continue it. One is the issue that we just finished having with Zoom. Everybody's sitting here not having seen anything for this meeting of this property. There's got to be some way, if it turns out that the pandemic continues and the next meeting is on Zoom, got to be some way for Mr. Hamill to share screen to show us what we're talking about. I'm not comfortable voting in favor of this, not having seen it tonight. Yes, I know I got to see it, the previous time when it was about lawn, but we all need to see the plans. I just don't see us finishing this tonight. But then there's a second reason, and that is for any riparian zone project, we always ask for alternatives. And I'm not interested in this being like the exception that, we don't need to see any alternatives. We need to see some alternative plans for a riparian zone. We ask it of everybody, whether it's a big project or a small project. So that's two reasons to not finish this tonight. I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but we don't usually just hear a description. We actually see the plan. And I know it was kind of a last minute thing for us to go on Zoom. The town hall decided that we're, being more restrictive, and the decision was made and we're on Zoom. And so maybe there wasn't time to put together what you need to do for share screen, but the next time I think we need to see a share screen, and I think we need to see some riparian zone alternatives for this.
Ma'am, if I might respond to that, I just tried to share the screen and the host has disabled the sharing. That's on your end.
No,
I can't change.
So I just clicked on multiple participants can share, so you should be able to share.
Let me see if I can put it up there. Okay, I got it right here.
But I will also say, Betsy,
How's
I
that?
understand what
Can
you're
you see
saying,
that?
but the plans have been on the website for review.
Okay, because I tried earlier and it didn't pop up. But this is basically the site that we're looking at. You can see the drains, downspouts. You can see the area of the wall, the patio, the pool. The pool's a fairly small pool. It's a
Trace out the riparian zone. Trace because of course it's a tiny little thing. It's like a 2 inches by 2 inches.
okay.
Trace out the riparian
I've got another sketch here on the riparian zone right here.
because that's what we're about here.
This is our riparian zone that we are going to impact right in here.
So that's what I would like. So we always ask any riparian project to show us alternatives. And
Right.
I just, so we need to see the next time you come, some alternative possibilities.
If I might address that as well. We looked at 3 different alternatives originally when we started this project to reorient the pool. And this was chosen mostly because it was the minimal impact. When we had the pool rotated 90 degrees, we were right up against this no alteration zone. We didn't even have a work area, so we pulled everything back. We built an extra high wall to do that. So we took that into consideration when we started the design process on this.
Landis, I have a question for you. Don't the alternatives have to be shown to us? Don't we have to see
I
them?
described some of them in the narrative. It says a narrative in the regulations. It does not say plans. So I conform to the regulations.
It's not what we usually ask for work in a riparian zone. So that's
Well-
all I'll say on it. I actually don't feel comfortable letting this happen without seeing alternatives.
I can certainly submit those for your next meeting, but I think this is the project we would really like to build. I think we've addressed the issues that you had, and I believe that we addressed that you needed this stuff earlier, we would have addressed it earlier.
No, that's not fair. We did not receive the DEP number. We did not receive the DEP comments. That was part of the whole DEP comments. But is it, you have the retaining wall. Is it possible to bring the retaining wall up closer to the patio where the pool is, or?
We can do that. I mean, that's physically possible. Again, we were trying to balance the cost of the wall against what we could do grading wise. Effectively, when this project was originally approved by the commission, the work was right up against the no alteration zone. We've pulled it back significantly in a number of areas. Over in this area here, we're 9 feet from the no alter zone. Over here, we're 7 feet. Here, we're 4 or 5 feet. This is the closest spot, and we tried again to pull that back, but we needed some area or some room to put in our geogrid to hold the wall in place. So it was kind of an engineering balancing act to make this thing actually work.
Yeah, it's a lot to fit in a small space. You have the covered patio, another patio, and a pool. So there's a lot being put in a small space.
Right, but if
So
you'll
it can't be
notice, our
reduced?
apron around the pool is only 5 feet wide.
Right.
Other than a sunbathing area here and a barbecue area here. Pretty much the bare minimums to make this whole concept work.
Okay, anything else, Betsy?
No, I think I've said what I thought.
Okay, Al?
Well, we could start with moving the wall closer to the pool up to the contour mark 166 and cut it a little closer to the apron on the side where it's close there, and move the pool just a little bit as I'm looking at the plan to the right, so that the apron is equal on both sides, and instead of a big wide pool, apron in one place and a narrow
Yeah,
one.
that was actually a sunbathing area.
Well, they could sunbathe on the patio area. But at any rate, that's an alternative that could be explored here. I don't see why this wall has to go all the way down to the corner like it does. But I agree with Betsy, and I agree with the engineer here that this is a tight lot, and they're trying to get more into it than was originally proposed. So I think we have to look at that again. That's all, Jack.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. Anybody appear?
You can just unmute yourself or let us know in chat that you want to speak if there's anybody that wants to make comments. I don't think there is.
Okay, hearing none. It would appear in the comments that we'd like to see a revision, alternates plus a revision to make the changes suggested here with regarding to the wall and the location of the pool, which might require some downsizing of that, the patio pool area. So, how much time would it take you to get those revisions?
It's fairly quick to do so. However, Mr. Madden is the ultimate, will be making the ultimate choice here as to whether he would like to, continue the hearing or ask you to close and vote. Mr. Madden? Mr. Madden?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
It's my first time going through something like this.
How would you like to proceed?
I would appreciate a close here, or close with conditions. We have alternatives already drawn up and we're happy to provide them. We can alter them based on the feedback we heard today and submit those potential alternatives to the committee as soon as Bert is able to have them drawn up.
You certainly can. We have an option of asking for a continuance to, I believe, the 26th, and we'll provide them to you a week beforehand, or we can ask for a closure with conditions.
If we close the hearing, if the plans as submitted are not approved, in other words, we deny the project, you would have to go then through an appeal process, which will take, if that's what you decide to do, or else refile with the changes. It would be to your advantage to continue the hearing and do the revisions accordingly. I think we need to see those revisions and not just count on that it would be done based on closing the hearing and then trying to write an order without seeing what these plans, the revised plans would be, and what the alternative choices would have been. So I ask again, do you really want to close the hearing?
I think probably it's in our best interest to continue it. Can you put us on the agenda for the 26th?
Ken, it'll be late. It'll have to be 8:30. We have a number of hearings that night. But we'll do that 8:30 on
That works.
January 26th. Someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay. All in favor? Dean?
Aye.
Bailey?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Medio?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay. It'll be continued 8:30 on January 26th. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey. Tanglewood.
Moving right along.
Moving right along.
This sheet got cut up.
Oh, which one?
It got cut up.
Oh, well, there was,
Two, this one, yeah.
there was a partial one of
Yeah.
of the original filing that was in there. Okay, so we don't do
This
that.
is-
Tanglewood.
That's what we're on next.
Yep, that's the last public hearing. I'm freezing. It's absolutely freezing in this
I
room.
know, it's a little chilly in here. Town of Walpole, requesting determination of applicability, Conservation Commission public hearing, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice hereby given the intent of a lease done, determine if an addition at 3 Tanglewood within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands is subject jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Walpole Wetlands Bylaw. Plans on file with the Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing, the above matter will be held at Walpole Town Hall, January 12th, 2022, beginning 8 p.m. All interested person requested to be present. Time is now 9:27. And let's see if we have anything here. I don't see anything to read into the record. So, representing the applicant,
I don't,
is there anyone?
There's only 10 people on.
yeah, I know. So I don't know if the applicant is here or not.
I don't think so. It's just us.
Okay. It's a really simple request for determination. It's activity at 3 Tanglewood. And they want to put a very small addition and breezeway to connect the house to the garage. The activity is about 80 feet away from the wetlands, existing lawn. The wetlands is a hard edge to a pond, pretty much. And all the activity is like 80 feet away. So I would recommend a -3.
You say
If
negative?
you would go forward with what I've described. I know the applicant's not here. It's an applicant who is trying to get a determination prior to purchasing the house.
It says-
No plans though, huh?
It says -2 on your.
-2.
Is that what you want, -2?
Yes, that's what I wrote in my report.
Okay. Anyone in the audience?
Well,
Because
Dean
we have
just
no
asked a
audience.
question. Dean just asked something.
There's no plans. There's nothing on the web.
There's no plans on the web?
No. Tanglewood. There's nothing in Tanglewood here.
There's pictures.
Can you give me one of those?
Oh, there is there is something on there. Picture.
I thought it was up on the web.
Not a big deal. Take your word for it.
Okay, the garage is sort of perpendicular to the house, and this would just connect the garage.
Landis, you gave me a paper copy today.
Yeah,
I know, this is ridiculous.
I'm
But you can
sorry.
see, you can see there's a house and a garage. And the wetland is,
the other
well,
direction.
other direction, yikes. Right there. And I can tell you, it's a little oval-shaped pond.
Right, I know Al has a copy of the plans. Betsy has a copy of the plans. We have a copy of the plans. The wetlands were delineated in the field with the plan that I have by Glossa Engineering. And then there's dimensions to the existing garage from the wetlands, which is 68 feet. And then to the house is 80 feet. And the addition and breezeway connect the garage to the house. And the pictures are of grassed area behind, within this area, so there's no vegetation that's being taken down. It's flat area based on the photographs. We can condition that erosion control is put in place.
So the breezeway is like right there, and there's a little pond here.
Right.
Okay. Dean, any questions?
No.
Bailey?
No, no questions. She was on off.
Oh, Bailey, you broken up.
What did you say, Bailey? She was on earlier?
Oh. Maybe she got knocked off by the,
The great boot.
yeah.
The great boot.
And didn't realize she could come back on.
Probably that, Dean.
Not your fault. No one's fault.
There she is.
I have no questions.
Okay, media.
No questions.
Betsy?
I'm fine with it.
Al?
My question is, would the building inspector accept a plan like this with just a squiggle of a line to indicate something to be constructed somewhere?
No, but this is a determination of applicability for the commission to determine if a permit is required under the Wetlands Protection Act or the local bylaw.
No,
And
what
it's
I'm
really not
getting
even a hearing, it's a meeting.
If the building inspector wouldn't accept this kind of a plan, why should we?
Because you're just determining if the activity is going to impact the wetlands.
Well, you don't know how they're gonna do anything there, so how would you know?
Because it's flat and it's 80 feet away from the wetlands.
And you trust Atlantis.
I think it's absolutely absorbent to ask private homeowners to do a full engineered surveyed plan if it's just a determination. If you feel like they need additional information because there's going to be impact, then yes, give them a positive determination. But it's just a determination, it's an ask. The commission, is the activity, if I work within that area that she's drawn out on the plan, would it require a permit, an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission or not? It's 80 feet away. If you feel like it does and it needs a full engineered survey plan, then give her a negative determination.
My only concern is allowing a contractor to go driving around anywhere he wants in this area without any controls. So, and we don't know where this construction is going to be. The person that did this couldn't even use a ruler to make a straight line indicating where things are going to go. I think they could have done a better job to convince us that this is okay.
I think based on what they want to do, that this is a minor amount of work on that, and basically the existing garage is closer to the wetland which was built and is there than what this addition would be, so it's
And
kind of within the same distance. The closest to the house, 80 feet. And the porch is there, so I don't see that what they're asking is that for the determination. I think that this is adequate information based on the situation.
The request for determination is so that they can decide if they would be allowed under the Wetlands Protection Act local bylaw to build the addition and the breezeway prior to purchasing the house. So they're trying to get this information so they know if it's worth purchasing the house. That's why they didn't want to put a lot of money into, a surveyed, engineered plan. I'm sure.
I just think they could do better.
They could have done better, Al, you're right.
Without an engineered plan, they could have done better to show what they want to have.
They could have. You're right.
Okay, based on that, let's take a motion to close the hearing.
I'll move that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
There was a second by Emilio? Was that,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right, all in favor? Dean?
Aye.
Bailey?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Emilio?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Al?
No,
Jack, aye. So it's 6-1-0. Okay, and for the determination to be a, what are we looking at, -2, with the installation of erosion control.
So you could say installation of erosion control as the limit of work within 10 feet of proposed addition as shown on sketch.
Okay, anything else?
Well, so should anything, are we allowed to put into a condition that, that they need to come back with a decent looking sketch?
If they buy the house, you mean?
Yeah. And then proceed to actually do what they say they're gonna do.
We could ask them, when they get their building permit, to give us the information, the drawing that would go with the building, to the building inspector, that being also copied to the Conservation Commission. So that would show the details of their construction, and probably put then the location of erosion control and/or construction entrance would be determined by the commission's agent at that time. Will that take care of it?
I think so. What does Al think?
You live with that, Al?
I can live with getting some kind of a plan that shows what they're gonna do before they start doing it.
Okay. All right, so we got that? All right, someone to move that?
I'll move it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Dean?
Aye.
Bailey?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Emilio?
Aye.
Betsy?
Sorry, aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay.
So also just to let everyone know, if you're not familiar, so whenever anyone applies for the building permit, it goes on to open government, and it goes to all the different departments to comment and approve on, and the plans submitted to the building permit are also on there. So if something is uploaded, and I know that there's been a determination or permit or anything issued by the Conservation Commission, I always review the file. So if, for whatever reason, this was done and a building permit was applied, and the outline of the sketch was a lot more than what we said was okay, they would not get that building permit. So there's also that catch.
You want me to sign anything?
Oh.
There's nothing in this folder.
There you go. Great, thank you.
Now, where are we? Okay, we have minutes from the, December 8th. We didn't have a meeting on 11/29. So we have the minutes from December 8th, and there was, they were sent out by Mallory, and I know there's some corrections that were sent in, so those have been made.
Yeah.
And someone want to move those minutes?
Well, okay, I hate to say this, but I know that there was a little flurry of email around those minutes about, like, spell Hassenjager's name correctly.
Yeah.
That was mine. Did we actually get to see the final version?
Oh, I did make the corrections. If I didn't send them out, I
Okay.
have like 5 filings sitting on Mallory's desk waiting to be processed, and I'm catching up, so I apologize if things are a little off. It's, again, dealing without a board secretary is challenging. So I did make the Hassenjager changes, and the other changes, I think Doug, you had a change. I did make those changes as noted. So if you want to keep it on the agenda and I'll send you out those copy, then you can just approve it next meeting.
I won't be
Fine.
the only one to hold it up. I mean, if
I mean,
everyone's-
it doesn't really matter, I don't think, if you guys don't approve it tonight.
Okay, so you want to see the revised?
Yeah, let me send out the revised, and then you guys can approve it at the next meeting.
So they'll-
And 11/29 was the meeting that we had for just
Oh,
one item. Oh,
that's it, okay.
yeah.
I don't remember seeing minutes on that.
Okay, so I'll check those.
Okay. Okay. All right, yeah, that's, okay, this was a meeting then.
Yeah.
You're right. This was,
Can't remember what it was for. One item though.
okay. We have a request from the Trails Committee to support their request for a grant. Someone want to make that a motion?
So they're applying for a trails grant to get money for additional signage up at trails, as well as maps, so that there would be standing maps at various intersections of trails, so you could orientate yourself as to where you are and what trail you want to go on. So that's, and they're asking for a support letter for that.
Okay, someone will make that a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Second, Betsy, good enough. Okay, all in favor, or anybody have any
Definitely
questions?
sent that out.
Just raise your hand if you have a question on it. Okay, all in favor? Dean?
Aye.
Haley?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Medio?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay, so that's okay.
I sent my report out, Betsy.
Oh,
You did?
then my mistake, Landis.
Yeah, I sent it out with the Zoom information.
Oh,
Did you guys not get it?
I got it.
I got it.
Okay, so then that's me. That's me. Sorry, Landis.
No, it's okay, because sometimes I don't know what I've done and what I've done and not done, so.
Okay, master plan update.
We found, yeah, we found the logo. That's about it.
You found a logo?
Yeah, we used the high school's graphic design class, and they drew a logo for us. Then we were putting together these. They're calling them kitchen table seminars, where you basically one of us goes into someone's home, mostly people you know, and kind of discuss the master plan and get feedback. But it's like this lunchbox thing. So that's going to be distributed. They have received the data, they're crunching it, but the last meeting you had wasn't fruitless at all. But it's happening.
Okay. The North Street property, couple of questions here. One, in Landis' report, you filled in, the county is surveying the property and will stake it out with respect to the property line and give us the topo so that then the engineering department can use that to come up with an estimate to do what we were talking about of a turnout off of North Street and establishing a trail down to the pond through that NEPRA, Neponset watershed property that actually abuts the pond, but we would have access through there to the pond. So, one other question that has come up, any questions on this? Anybody have any on what's going on?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
This is right across from Adams Farm, correct?
Correct.
So
Sort of.
instead of going through the costs of putting a turnout onto the property, it seems like cars can park at Adams Farm. The issue was the safety of trying to cross North Street. And maybe a more economical solution would be just to have a crossing light so people can park at Adams Farm parking lot and then just use a traffic crossing light to cross over onto the new property.
Not directly across. You got to walk down North Street a little bit.
You have to come down, there's a,
You got to wait.
North Street at that point is, has a 50-foot right-of-way. So there is room on the west side, which would be, as you're going up towards Bubbling Brook, it would be on your left side. That would be the west side of North Street. So that there will be a pedestrian path from Adams Farm property across the field that is adjacent to that, that's under, that is owned by New England Forestry Foundation. And then you get to the corner, just about to the corner opposite this new parcel, and then we'd have to cross North Street there with some form of pedestrian crossing.
Is there a sketch that shows us? I had envisioned it being on the east side of North Street, so I didn't know that.
The parcel is on the east side of North Street, but to get to it from Adams Farm, it's not directly across the street. You have to go, probably at least 100 yards along North Street to get opposite this parcel. It's almost to the corner where North Street comes into Fisher.
I guess once the engineering department surveys it, we'll be able to see it a little better.
Yeah. Okay. One other issue with this, Conservation Commission has several parcels that are part of Adams Farm and have been under the quote, the jurisdiction of what goes on at Adams Farm under the Adams Farm Committee. This piece of land is also under Conservation Commission jurisdiction, does not abut the existing Adams Farm property. And the question has come up, should the Adams Farm Committee have any so-called jurisdiction on this parcel?
Jack, can I make a suggestion? Because it's almost 10 o'clock and we have like a serious enforcement order and some certificates of compliance and an extension. And I'm just wondering if we should try to have a discussion about who's in charge of this property right now. Is there any chance we can table it for another meeting?
Yeah, it can be done. But I
Good.
just, if, in the meantime, give that some thought
Yep.
as to what position Conservation Commission should take on this issue. So we'll continue that on our agenda, although next meeting looks pretty full too. Under enforcement orders, nothing new on Main Street or Palmer Lane. So is there, what do we got on this Washington Street with Stevie Capone?
So Washington Street, the very end of Washington Street, on the Norwood border, there is a property on the Norwood side. The Norwood Conservation Commission, conservation agent contacted me that she had observed some alteration to the riverfront area and buffer zone and potentially wetlands area from the Norwood side, and that she was going to be issuing an enforcement order and requesting a restoration plan for that property in Norwood. It appears, and we weren't quite sure exactly how much, but it appeared that some of the material from the Norwood side had been pushed onto the Walpole side and may alter some of the riverfront area or buffer zone in the Walpole side. So I issued the enforcement order so that the violator, Capone, could address any areas of the riverfront area that needed to be restored in Walpole. I've talked to both Capone and Canada. Canada's on the Walpole side. They're all being very cooperative, and they'll be getting a plan to Norwood, which will also be forwarded to Walpole so we can look at the exact area that's been altered and what's in Norwood and what's in Walpole. At this point, I need the commission to just approve the enforcement order.
Okay, someone want to make that a motion?
I move that we approve the enforcement order.
A second?
Dean seconds that.
Okay, all in favor?
Dean, aye. Aye.
Haley?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Medio?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay, so that's, take care of that
That's
enforcement order. Now, what is, going on? Your
Burns Ave.
report
Is that what you're?
a lot of detail.
What's going on in Burns Ave?
Yeah, okay, so Burns Ave, so I don't know if all the commissioners, I can't remember who was on with the Burns Ave situation, but there is a proposal for 240B projects on Burns Ave, one with 32 units and one 40 units connecting to Brook Lane. And the 32 unit 40B project did receive a permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then their decision was appealed by the applicant. In the meantime, also, the applicant received a order from the Conservation Commission, which was also appealed, and they received an SOC from DEP under 3151200 for the 32-unit development. He also has an SOC for the second one, which connected to Brook, which I believe he's also, something is being held up as far as the 40B permit for that. So the applicant, the owner of the property went out and cleared all the trees and removed a lot of the large concrete pieces on the site. The whole time this happened, this was like right before Thanksgiving and right before Christmas, all times when there was limited staff at town hall. I was under the impression that he did have a 40B permit. The applicant stated to me and both to DEP that he had a 40B permit and he was working under his 40B permit. And subsequent conversations with the building inspector and Patrick Deschaines of the Zoning Board of Appeals and Town Council is, as far as the town is concerned, he does not have his 40B permit because it's under appeal. He just has an SOC. So one issue is because of that, he doesn't have a bylaw permit because he doesn't have an active 40B permit. And in addition to that, even under the SOC, I went out and did an inspection, and that in my report, it does state the violations that I found on site that just violated the SOC, and I sent that to DEP. And basically, they told me that the commission can issue an enforcement order if they feel that there's a violation on the site on the SOC. So I sent all these emails to Lou Petrozzi as well and saw him in the parking lot, asked him to address it, to tell us when he's going to fix the erosion control, which I found to be nicked and pieces missing. And the site was all denuded of any kind of vegetation, but no stormwater management during construction, and have not heard anything back from him.
So this is Burns Ave. This is off Pleasant Street.
Yeah, sorry. So this is Burns Ave. It's off of Pleasant Street, and then the property is near Union Street. If you go down Union Street, it's behind a couple of the houses where Pickerel Brook is. You
mean Trap Hole Brook?
It's got both Pickerel and Trap Hole Brook. Both.
Right, so Trapple Brook wetlands associated with Trapple Brook is on site. Trapple Brook riverfront area is not on the site. Pickerel Brook, which is a tributary to Trapple Brook, is on site, and the riverfront area is on site. The riverfront area was cordoned off a while ago. He's not in the riverfront area. He's in the buffer zone to the wetlands associated with Trapple Brook.
Since this is under the superseding order, first of all, if we decided to, can we issue fines? Or is that not?
Right, so fines are under the bylaw. Fines are not under the Wetlands Protection Act. There is no fines under the Wetlands Protection Act. The fines are only under the bylaw. So.
The bylaw is not applicable on the 40B.
But it is currently applicable because he does not have an active 40B permit. It is in appeal. According to the building inspector and town council, he does not, for the work that he's doing out there, the cutting and grubbing of the trees and the grading was done, as far as the building inspector is concerned, is under by right zoning, that you can do that on your property by right.
But by doing that, then he should have filed under the bylaw to to do that work. Is that
He
correct?
should have, or he should have waited until he got his 40B permit before he did anything. But he chose not to do that.
So the option then is open to fines under the bylaw because he didn't file for the bylaw. So he's in
Because
vi-
he did work within the jurisdiction of the bylaw without a valid order of conditions or a 40B, yes.
All right, so we do have the ability to fine if we decide to. So based on knowing that, suggestions, what would the commission like to do here?
I'd like to actually fine him. The
Yeah,
way
I'm with
we're
Betsy.
allowed- What? Sorry.
There we go.
Okay.
They're back.
Oh, they're back. Okay, good. All right. So I was going to say, I know we can fine daily until something is rectified. And we don't do it very often, and we usually hem and haw, but it's 10:03 right now, and I don't want to do a whole lot of hemming and hawing. Those erosion controls are not going to get put into place until there's something that we have as a little impetus. And so I think it's got to be a fine, and I think it's got to be every day until, and then the list of what has to go back into place.
Okay, so let's, first of all, decide whether we want to fine. So it's been
And
suggested.
who doesn't want to fine him?
We
I do.
fine,
Now, who
Dean?
doesn't?
Yeah, fine, find a way, yes. I mean, aye.
Bailey,
Aye.
you want to fine him? Okay, Doug,
Aye.
Emilio,
Aye.
and Betsy?
Yeah. And Jack, how about you?
Well, Al?
Aye.
Okay, and I'll go along with that. So now, that, we decided to fine. Now we need to decide for what and how much.
Negligence.
We have 8 issues. These are all in Landis's report. There are 8. Well, we have a violation of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items on our order of conditions. However, I think what we need to do is, we're fining him under the bylaw, so that there is no order of conditions. Is that right?
I got bumped out, so, yes, that's right.
Okay, so we have, so we can't reference the order of condition as a violation because it's not applicable to the fine. But if we list the items that are there, because he did not file, number one, we should state that he should have filed under the bylaw to do the work he did as there are not, we've got to word this so that it's not under the 40B application. That's what the building inspector is saying, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we need to word it that the work he did is not covered under the 40B application, and that as such should have been filed with the Conservation Commission under the bylaw. Since there was no filing under the bylaw, these are issues which are in violation, and list those that you have in your report. I'm just trying to make sure that we don't confuse the bylaw and the 40B and the orders of conditions that we wrote under those 40B applications. Or we just, or the fact that he did this work without a filing and just fine him for that and say, these things need to be done. So what's
And
your
fine is every day until they're done. Because we've got two brooks here, as Landis puts in her final paragraph here. Well, okay, we have the Trap Hole Brook and a watershed and wetlands. I mean, until the erosion situation and the stabilization situation is under control, then it's a daily find.
Okay, I think, and you may want to review this with town council as to how we word the fine, so it does not tie it into the 40B application. We're strictly fine.
Right, I think it would be work without an order of conditions, a valid order of conditions, or 40B permit, a valid order of conditions on the bylaw or 40B permit, the alteration of the site.
We have to tie it into the bylaw that's why we're fining. We can fine under the bylaw, we can't fine under the.
Right, you'd be fining under the bylaw because he doesn't have an active order of conditions or the 40B permit. And he's cut trees, stumped, and graded the site without a permit.
Okay. I think, my question is, do we need to explain that the work he did by right then would have required a filing for that work? What I'm trying to do is how we word this so that he.
Okay, can I make a suggestion on this? That wordsmithing whatever it is with the town council is maybe not what we should be discussing. Like maybe we just say, Landis, please run the final wording by town council. I think what we're trying to vote for here is, are we saying that there's a fine per day until certain situations are under control? $300 a day until all the erosion controls and the stabilization that needs to be done is done. And then exactly how it's worded, that'll get worded right because Landis will run it by town council.
Okay. I'm just not sure how, I agree, we need to run this through town council on how does it's because he did work without the proper permit.
Yep. That's why I would fine
I
him.
think that is the reason for the fine. And as a result, there are issues that need to be taken care of to avoid
To stabilize the
complications
site.
with our resource areas.
Yeah. Okay.
So, with that in mind, what do we, I think a fine, my suggestion would be a fine of $300 for the violation of not having the proper permit to do the work, and that the necessary corrections that have to do, because he did this work, and then list those things to be done, that we give them 2 days or 5 days or whatever to do that. If that is not completed, then he will be subject for each item on a $300 per item per day. So it'll be an initial $300 fine, and then if the work is not completed, to correct these things within, and I would give them, what do we got done here? Give them 3 days?
Yeah, 3 days, as long as we decide right now that the fine kicks in on day 4 and we don't like come back and have a meeting and go, oh my goodness, it snowed or rained or
That's what this would
tornado or
be,
whatever.
that it would be a fine. We give him 3 days to make the corrections. And the fines would begin on day 4 at $300 per day per violation.
So the initial is just $300.
$300 for working without a permit.
And then tell him to take care of these items,
Take care of
and
these
then
items.
give him 3 days, and on the 4th day, start $300 for each
3 business
fine.
days? 3, I'm just trying to think of the kind of quibbling that's gonna go on next.
I'm just
3
trying to be
business
clear on
days?
what exactly you guys want, yeah.
I think it should just be 3 days, period. And I don't think the weather, because the weather will play into it, should be a factor. I don't think there, that should be during that
That's 3
excuse.
days to make the corrections. Now,
And just to be clear, on the 4th day, it's 300 for each of the items.
yes, $300 per day for violation.
So at 8 items, 300 a day, it's 2,400 a day.
If nothing is done, yes. And I don't know if each one of these items would be a violation. Looks like it. Now, the question is, how soon can we get this reviewed by town council for the proper wording, and then get it to him directly?
I cannot answer
I
that
know.
question.
No, but I mean, that's the question of how, if it's gonna take 2 weeks to get an answer from town council, I think you need to go through town manager's office to get an immediate response.
Actually, can I ask, how wed are we to getting this to town council? I originally said, okay, we're wordsmithing it, let's get it to town council. The way Landis has written this up, it looks like we are within our rights to be doing these fines. Do we have to run it by town council? Jack?
I think we can't reference the order of conditions that was written, because the only way we can issue a fine is under the town bylaw. The order of conditions is written under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay, good, let's do it under the town bylaw then.
Well, we don't have, the town bylaw doesn't apply to a 40B.
He doesn't have a 40B.
He has applied for the 40B, that's why I'm saying.
Right, I think you write the fine for activity without filing under the bylaw, and that's the $300. And then you say, like any enforcement order to fix the situation prior to filing, you need to do these items within 3 days. And if you don't do these items within 3 days, then you start finding them per item per day. That's fine.
You're comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And I would also write an enforcement order under the Wetlands Protection Act, SOC, also, because you can. So
no delay with town council, right, Landis?
If I can get a quick okay from them, I will, but yeah, if it's gonna bog us down, I feel pretty confident. I mean, I don't think he's gonna pay anyways, so I think
That's
that,
my point, that it would be.
regardless if we go through town council or not, I don't think it's gonna matter.
In court, which is gonna have to involve town council, and.
But
all this is time.
I don't think getting town council involved now is gonna change that opinion.
I think I would like to have it, like to know that what we're doing, that if we do wind up in court, that we have at least attempted to get this cleared with town council first. But I agree that we can't put it off. So if you can get a quick response,
Okay,
do it, otherwise proceed.
okay.
Now, we need a vote on that, so, so basically, we're gonna issue a fine of $300 for working without a permit. And then list, and write an enforcement order to cover the issues that, need to be addressed
Under the SOC.
under the SOC, and then to, indicate that he has 3 days to make correction, and I would take it three days, not business days,
Right.
3 days, to make the corrections, or be subject to fines of $300 per day per violation. Does someone make that a motion?
I'll move it.
In a second?
Second. I'll second it.
All in favor? Bailey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Medio?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay. That takes care of that one. We've got a request for an extension of the general maintenance order conditions with the town.
Yep.
How long are we extending this?
Actually, let's just keep that on for the next agenda, because I don't have the form. Sorry, they can wait, it's all right, no big problem with that. So let's just hold that off.
Okay, we're gonna put that, North Street on next agenda. This would be, that's a certificate of compliance, 539 Main Street.
Right, so that's the gas station near Stop and Shop where there was a spill, so they had to do some remediation and they're completed.
They're all done?
Yeah.
Someone wanna move that?
I'll move it.
Second? Somebody.
Second.
Medio, second?
Yep.
All in favor, Dean?
Aye.
Bailey?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Medio?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay, so, you want me to sign that?
Yep.
Okay.
Forgot about this part. Oh, God.
Okay. Appeals, nothing new on those. Okay, that's all on this item, right?
Yep.
Okay. We do have potential for a discussion on the Pinnacle Point Trail. We had a meeting with Mr. Hassenjager and Mr. Petrosi at our last meeting, I believe it was. We had an executive session on that. I think we can make it a short one. Do you, someone want to, do we want to continue that at this point? All right.
Yep.
Okay, let's wrap that up then. We need a motion to go into executive. There's nothing else we have, right?
Right.
Okay. so you can cut us off. We're gonna do executive session.
So just do a roll call vote to go into executive
We
session.
wanna keep Zoom, but we want the public meeting ended now. So do we have to end the public meeting?
Yeah, you need to go in a roll call vote now
Okay, so
to
this
go
meeting
into
ends-
executive session and then to end the meeting.
This will be a roll call vote to end the regular meeting and also to go into executive session. So, someone make that a motion?
Second.
Do we have a first, a second?
Sure,
Okay.
yes.
We got first and second, okay. Dean,
Aye.
Bailey,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Emilio,
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
Jack, aye. Okay, so that cover both?